Hey everyone, another episode here, Talking Shop with Outlier Firefighters. I'm Alex Tanner. This is Preston Lyons. We've got episode 40. Preston, thanks for joining me on my show tonight.
Dude, so happy to be on. Thanks for finally hitting me up. We've chatted, fellow vigilantes, just shooting the shit over Messenger and through text, and then you hit me up. You're like, "Hey, man, you want to come on the podcast?" I'm like, "Sure, man. Let's do it. Let's make
Yeah,
it happen." So yeah, it's all good.
dude, the conversation, we were just like rooming, right? And the conversations that just come from some of these things are just awesome, and they're not opportunities we get unless we both were at the same conference or something like that, which can happen. It's not like it
Yeah.
can't, but yeah, it's always a blast. So again, I really do appreciate you. So I apologize if you're not. You're still doing Fit Fire Fortitude, right? Like that. That's not. You just now have Relentless Rejects as your podcast, right?
That's how I say it too. Don't even worry
Oh
about
my
it.
God, I've been hitting the head too much. I think.
So Fit Fire Fortitude is actually on the back burner.
Okay.
The reason why I put it on the back burner is because talking to guys like John Spera and Marcos Orozco and Logan Broberg, I'm like, wow, I am extremely mediocre at fitness and firefighting and mental fortitude. So I'm like, I'm gonna work on myself a little bit, but you know what I do well, or maybe a little bit too much, maybe not well, is I talk a lot. So why not rebrand a little bit? I resonate with a lot of people when it comes to like Relentless Rejects. It's like you're that guy that comes back from a conference and you want to change the world, and everybody's like, "We ain't got time for that." It just we're chilling. We're here to get away from the wife and kids. We don't hit me too much with all the conference stuff, and that's kind of where it all began. And I'm sure we're gonna get into it, but I'm someone that it's really hard to get me to shut up. So I felt like I could use a platform to communicate and get others to communicate and just have a conversation with like-minded individuals, very much like you also do with your platform.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
So Fit Fire Fortitude is going to make a comeback, but just hold off for that.
dude, that's great. I mean, if there's anyone listening to, if you want to do something even like this or not even quite like this, you will try things multiple times, and something will stick eventually, right? And then
Mm.
you might come back to something, right, and rebrand it or rebuild it. I think I tried two or three times to like do something like this, and this actually started. I was going to write a book about like longevity because I didn't have a lot of good senior guys. So I just talked to senior guys in the beginning that didn't work with me, and then it just became conversation. So like, I really, I mean, I love you saying, like, you know, you did it. You might come back to it. Hopefully, you do come back to it after you've built up some stuff. But that's
Yeah.
awesome to admit those things, right? So many people see the end result and not the volume of work that it takes, or just trial and error to get to a point like this. So real cool for you to share that.
Yeah. No. Like I said, I know we're going to dive deep into
Yeah.
it, man. But it's the process. A lot of people, they don't cheer you on during the process. They cheer you on when you're standing on the podium. And guys like us, we gotta be okay with that. We're all not Corley Moore.
No.
So, but he went through it too,
Yeah.
so it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, he's I think 5+ years to get to where he's at now. I mean, it's not like it just happened. So, yeah, absolutely. And I think that echoes like at your own organization. If there was ever a metaphor for 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time, it's this kind of like getting to a point where people actually listen to what you have to say to a
Well,
certain extent, right?
so that's the message I try to tell people. If you like, let's bring back the conference conversation again, right? I try to come back. I'm a young, motivated, fired up firefighter. I had the batteries recharged. I'm quoting guys that I met at a conference, dudes that are making a huge impact on the fire service, and I come back and I'm name dropping. And I guarantee you 90% of the people in your department don't even know who those people are. And so now you're trying to create this change, but yet, do I know my rules and regs and SOPs in my organization? Am I someone that's been leading by example? Am I someone that has all the tools in the toolbox to be someone worth following when they see me on the fire ground doing aggressive search tactics ahead of the hose line, all these things that you learn at a fire conference? Do I have that mastered in my own skill set? Probably not. And that's probably why a lot of people in your organization are like, "Hey, sit down, calm down, because you got 2 minutes in this fire department. You need to build up some credibility." And that's perfectly okay. But it's, once again, it's the journey, it's the process. Be okay with it and take your licks from all the critics. But to quote Rob Fisher one more time, 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Cannot disagree with that.
Yeah, dude, and absolutely the critics. I gotta share something. He's taking a walk, so I'm upset with him. But my probie and I get somewhat made fun of because him and I both are into the job, and so there's these two guys from a show called Love on the Spectrum. I don't know if you've heard of it,
I've heard of it.
but one of them's name is Tanner, my last name. The other one's name's Connor, his first name. And those guys have a thing.
Oh,
The two of
no.
them are hysterical, by the way. And they had Connor or Tanner and Connor 24. So some guys were sharing social media like meme of those two. Like it's what is it? Make America Smile Again. I think is what it is.
Oh yeah, yep.
So
Oh
so
man.
so Connor, he's 24 years old, and man, he's got more patience than almost anyone I've ever met. And he it's like reclaiming it. He's like, oh yeah, well you're gonna share these and make fun of us. So he bought us both shirts, and I was like, I'm wearing that shit tonight. Like,
Yeah. Bro, you know who I love? The people that like when people make fun of them or try to make fun of them and create jokes, but then they return with, "You can't make fun of me better or more than I can make fun of myself."
yeah,
I'm going to beat you at the to the punch, and I'm going to take what you use against me. I'm going to make fun of myself even harder because I don't give a shit. I'm humble enough, and I know I'm on the right path. So no matter what you try to do to knock me off, that doesn't matter.
yeah,
I
dude.
have my support group. You're not in it, so it doesn't matter.
I'm yeah. I when I was his age, and that makes me sound old. I'm 10 years older than him, but I I didn't have any of that shit. And it's awesome that he's able to handle that already. And I'm like, dude, sky's the limit, right? We got to talk about some people in the chat because my God, we blew up here.
Oh,
So
oh shit! All right,
Chambliss is in here, right? We already talked about that before, but yeah.
Chambo, my dude.
Steve Mouch, always also great to see you at Firemanship as well. Joe Gavita, same thing, man. I mean, just names
Gavita.
is awesome. Gavita, I would see, right? Thank you, I appreciate that.
It's my man.
Van Ham, Greg Van Ham.
Another dude is part of the. You got iPhone boys on
That's
here.
what he just said. iPhone boys. I have no freaking clue what that is, but iPhone boys all day.
Oh man,
BJ Breacher, nice, welcome,
dude.
joining us in here. Dylan Clark, we got Matt Valdez. So,
Another one?
dude, tons of people watching tonight, which is pretty fucking
Dude,
awesome. So,
I love all those guys.
yeah,
And yeah, I've met, well, I haven't met, but I've like the one guy I haven't connected with straight up, at least through phone or social media all that much is BJ. So
yeah,
Breacher, I'm gonna reach out to you, man. We gotta connect.
there you go.
Yeah, but shout out to all those other dudes. Matt Valdez, one of the fucking nicest go-getter dudes I know. So
Yeah.
love that guy. But
Well,
iPhone boys, thank you guys so much. I left them in the dark earlier today, man. I probably worried them a little bit. I said, hey, look, I'm going dark for a little bit. I gotta get deep in myself and I gotta like recalibrate because we talked a little bit before we went live, man. Just like dad life, trying to manage a household, trying to run a podcast, trying to be a good fireman, all this stuff. Man, it's like getting run over by 100 horses. Just it sucks. So you just go up and down with it. Like my mood always changes, man. But that's all right.
yeah. BJ's in, by the way, and he's next up after you. I haven't posted it yet.
Oh
But,
hell yeah,
little
hell yeah.
little preview there. So, dude, all right. Well, let's fucking go. So, first exposure to the fire service. So we're talking as a kid. The first time you saw some firefighters and really knew what it was.
All right. So I'm gonna preface this with saying that I tell everybody that I'm just a punk kid from LA. Right. So if you're caught up when you want to do the things that I'm doing today, just know that I'm just some poor, scrappy, punk ass kid from Los Angeles. I did move to Colorado back and forth as a kid. So my first exposure was with Aurora Fire in Colorado. And to set the scene, I was probably 12, 13 years old, and I discovered the ability to burn shit on my own, right? I was a little pyro kid. And I think every firefighter is kind of a pyro. And I was like, where's a good place to find some stuff to burn? Well, behind the Goodwill across the street from my apartment complex, a lot of people would like leave boxes of donated goods back there. Well, nobody's gonna use this stuff, right? It's just been laying here. So me and my buddies took like some kerosene and decided to pour them on some clothes and set them on fire and watch them burn because I don't know, like some people just want to watch the world burn. I'm not saying I was evil. It was just
Yeah.
interesting for me at the time. But I guess someone witnessed it and called Aurora Fire and these dudes came out like stealth mode. I don't. They didn't have. They went not. I don't know about non-emergent, but they didn't blare the sirens, no horns, and they came shooting up the side of the building. And before they hit the air brake, I swear the whole crew jumped off the rig. And I was like, usually I run, right? Like when you hear sirens or anything, you're out, you're gone, especially as a an adolescent. But these dudes jumped so quick and they surrounded us that I was like, I was like, I'm busted. I don't know what to do here. And thank God it was Aurora Fire and not PD because these dudes were like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We thought it'd be cool to just burn some shit." And for some reason that day, they were like, "Look, where do you live?" I'm like, "Across the street." And they said, "All right, get in the fire engine." So I got the ride back seat, and they took me home. What they didn't realize was that I was going to get some grade A Gen X discipline when I got home. So naturally, I was bawling my ass off on the way home. I'm like, "You guys have no idea what's in store for me when you take me home." But other than that, like they didn't put me through some like fire starters program or make me or anything like that. They just dropped me off, told my dad what was up, and we'll end the story there. But that was my first interaction with the fire department.
That's awesome, dude. Oh, I mean, maybe not everyone, but I think all of us were pyros, or we just didn't get caught.
Ugh,
I
yeah.
mean, we committed some crimes. I don't even know if I should. I'm just kidding. It's so far now. I mean, come on. We blew up mailboxes. We
Hey,
with
there you
like
go.
we lit
Yeah,
like baseball
everybody did
bats on
something.
fire and
Every
played. Right?
every
It's yeah.
every kid. I mean, I think you're late '80s,
I'm 90.
early
I'm
'90s. Yeah.
90.
So I
Yeah.
mean, but every kid in that era and before that was out causing trouble.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the thing. Is like, don't get caught. Just just don't get caught. I mean, better than the era that we have now, where all the kids are doing TikTok dances on their phones. I feel bad for them because they didn't get to burn shit and blow up mailboxes like we did.
Yeah.
Those are the good.
You gotta learn society from a different perspective than
Oh
that.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. That's awesome, dude. Hey, what are you doing?
Oh man, I still remember it to this day. Like they're so quick.
That's
I mean,
funny.
you if we as a crew rolled up on that same scenario, we'd probably blast the sirens so that they knew we were coming, so that when we showed up, they were gone, and then we just water can the pile and be like, "We're done. Let's get out of here."
Or just
But no,
scared the
these
shit out of
dudes,
them.
these dudes are on a mission.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So from there, I mean, that's what was your first fire department? How'd you get into
Yeah.
that? Was it where you're at now, or did you work somewhere before that?
No, so basically when 9/11 happened, I was a junior in high school and I was in LA. I was back in LA at that time. So I wasn't at school yet. And I turn on the TV just like everybody else and it's on every single channel. And my mom calls me before I leave for school and she was like, just stay home. Like nobody knows what's going on. Everything's canceled. Just stay home. I'm coming home. I'm like, okay. As you can imagine, we shortly after that, we were going to war and they were recruiting the high schools pretty hard for able-bodied boys and girls to join the military to help, fight the good fight. And I was a dumb jock. I hated school. It's not that, in my opinion, I don't think I was dumb. It just wasn't for me. I didn't find a lot of joy in class, other than that was where the girls were. So that was where the girls were. That's where the weight room was. That's where the sports was. That's why I wasn't on the streets in gangs or anything like that, which I could have definitely done in LA. But I at least went for that motivation. And one day the military recruiters came by and said, "Hey, we're doing this ASVAB test. You missed the first half of the day in school. If you want to take it, then take it." I didn't even know what the ASVAB test was. I just saw some cool dudes in military outfits or uniforms, and then I took the test. And sure enough, I scored the absolute bare minimum to be able to get into the Navy and the Marine Corps. I wasn't even qualified for the Air Force because I was too dumb. So, I mean, I didn't prep, I didn't study, but I was able to get in. And then, sure enough, 2003, I got shipped off straight out of high school and went to boot camp, Chicago. And then I ended up on an aircraft carrier in Japan for 4 years. I had a 10-year career in the Navy. But anybody that's ever served, especially in the Navy, they know that everybody has to have some basic firefighting skills when they're on aircraft carrier ships because there's no one coming for you. If a fire breaks out on the ship, you got to put it out because there's no CAD to CAD, there's no neighboring fire department. Like you're it. So that was my first exposure to firefighting essentially. And then after 10 years, it was kind of like shit or get off the pot time. It was, do I do a 20-year career or do I get out now and I join the fire service? Because I was definitely not going to work in a cubicle. So the fire service just made sense to me. It was paramilitary. I already had some basic military skills. And so when I knew I was going to get out, I actually volunteered in Escambia County in Pensacola. Had I known about Chief Ike and everything that's going on out there right now, I probably never would have left. I would have stayed. And his famous saying is, "We won't pay you, but we'll take you to fires." And honestly, that's fine with me. Like take me to jobs. But no, I got out and I moved back to Colorado. My dad's still here, and went to paramedic school. I had the GI Bill from the
Yeah.
Navy, so paramedic school just kind of made sense. It's highly competitive out here in Colorado, and having your paramedic cert just gets you up the chain a little bit. And then, so I volunteered for Pensacola for 2 years, moved to Colorado, and then I got hired with my current department in 2015, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. I mean, yeah. Would you say like so? And it's probably a loaded question, and I'm sorry if it is, but like, would you say that your military career really set you up well for your transition in the fire service? Right. Like, I know that there's paramilitary connections, but what were some things that were maybe culture shock, but then some things that just you just felt right at home with?
Yeah, so anybody in the military, when you go on 6 to 8 month deployments and you're away from home and you're missing holidays and things like that, when you're on shift in the fire department, and maybe you have to work on Christmas, that's nothing. I mean, the military definitely prepared me for that. It definitely prepared me for the marching, standing at attention, everything you go through in boot camp, following a chain of command, understanding your cadre members like your drill instructor. That was all fairly easy transition for me. And then, I think in my opinion, after you get through the academy and probation, I think that's where the paramilitary stuff stops, other than a chain of command and a rank structure. Because I tell you what, in the military, if I mess something up, I end up in someone's office, standing at attention, staring at a spot on the wall while someone rips my ass and tells me to get my shit together and then get out of my office. And then I have to do an about face and walk my happy ass out. And if I do it again, then there's more and more punishment coming along the line. You don't see that really much in the fire service. Everybody's dealing with the PC thing and everybody's more of like, hey, we're all just adults. Let's just treat each other like we're normal people. But if we call ourselves paramilitary, there should be a situation where I can rip your ass for messing something up or not being focused or being complacent, or that's where accountability takes place. And I think accountability in the fire service is depending on where you're at. I think it could be better
Yeah,
in
dude.
my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a point where it just completely falls off, and there is no accountability anymore, and like standards and all those other things. Uh, I couldn't agree more. So, when you went over into Escambia, and even really doesn't have to be Escambia, but early in your career, was there someone, an early mentor that you latched onto that really set you up and made you kind of on the right path to where you are today?
Yeah, I had to think long and hard for this because it's a tough answer. My current department, honestly, for the first few years, I would say no.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily have anybody that was teaching me or showing me the way of like down and dirty, gritty, blue collar firemanship with a mission of serving the community the way aggressive firefighters do it. Like we just don't have that all that much. There's a couple names I can think of now that I've gotten to know, but definitely not. That wasn't my influence. My very first influence, though, however, was in Escambia County, and granted, this was volunteer, but it was Captain. His name's Captain Moritz. I don't know where he's at now, but he was the captain of the firehouse, and he had an East Coast vibe, and he was definitely that guy of like no nonsense. This is we're gonna focus on our skill set because when we get a call, I don't want to see you guys fucking up and dropping ladders and all that. Like have your shit dialed in. And that was the first time I was like, oh, okay, the fire service is legit. This is legit. But after leaving Escambia County, it wasn't necessarily that way with my department. My department focuses, and no disrespect, but professionalism, customer service, very, very proud of our quality EMS, the way we treat our community, our knowledge and our medicine and how we do that. It's great because EMS is a large part of our job. But I think a lot of people, because in our district, at least I'm a suburban firefighter, fires are down, right? So we kind of don't prioritize it as much. But that's where guys like me and some other individuals come in, and we got to knock people upside the head a little bit and say, hey, just because fires are down doesn't mean I'm not going to be good at this shit. And because when grandma needs me to show up, I got to show up. I can't be like, well, we haven't been training because we didn't think this was going to happen. Well, try living with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, how many cardiac arrests do you truly go on the EMS world compared to everything else? But we
Mhm.
still train on that. You know what I mean? It's such a fallacy when people bring that up and say, like, well, I go on a lot of fires, so we don't need to train on it. Like, we train on plenty of things that we don't do all the time that are high
Oh,
risk and high reward, right? Like,
dude, I was training on how to put a catheter in a newborn baby's umbilical cord the other day. There's that, and then obviously like pediatric needle crikes
yeah,
and all this other stuff. I'm like, when am I ever gonna do this stuff? Probably less than I'll fight a structure fire. But these are the things that we're focusing on. And once again,
not knocking.
that dude,
Yeah,
our EMS division, the chiefs and everybody, they got their shit dialed. They're
yeah,
they're going out, they're seeking quality training, they're getting people to come in and train and teach this stuff. Where on the fire side, it's really up to us to go out and get the information and bring it back and teach it. And however that's received, right? We touched on that a little bit. It could be varied on how people and how hard they want to go or, how seriously they want to take it.
yeah. That that gap between complacency and reality it gets wider and wider if people aren't really challenged to even use their shit, right? Like, and the drill ground equalizes that as much as it should.
Yeah. One thing that pisses me off, and I've heard it a couple times, is that when we do find an expired victim in a structure, probably like 30 minutes and beyond to into the scene, oh, they were probably dead before we even got here. Don't even feel bad that you didn't find them. Don't even feel bad that you crawled over them. It's all good. I mean, they shouldn't have been in the house. It's like, are you serious? Please tell me you can actually believe those words. I mean, if anything, let them expire in the front yard because you drug them out. I don't care if they've been in there for an hour. It's your job to bring them out.
Yeah,
And that's my belief. And, I think a lot of people listening have the same belief.
yeah. Let the coroner determine a TOD, not you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Hmm.
that's not our obligation, right? It's to
Right.
get them out. That's
Damn right.
yeah. Well, let's roll into Relentless Rejects. So we kind of touched a little bit before, and it's definitely something we're going to dive into because I think we both kind of come from a very similar path to get to where we are. I mean, you look at the names of our two things, and they're pretty, aligned with probably coming from some shit. So,
Oh yeah.
what's the origins? We kind of touched a little bit, but I want to give you a platform to really explain where Relentless Rejects comes from, and if there's even, you don't have to name names, but like a story that kind of flipped that switch that
Yeah.
was like, all right, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. So this is kind of a funny story, but this is where it started early on in my career. Jocko came out with Extreme Ownership in 2015. I got hired in 2015. And I actually had someone mention it to me when I was a rookie. They're like, oh, are you a big Jocko guy? I was like, I have no idea who that is. And they're like, oh, you should check out his book, Extreme Ownership. And I was like, okay. As soon as I read it and I started listening to the podcast, I'm like, yes, this is what I've been missing in my entire life. I've been placing blame and pointing fingers at everybody for all my problems for 35 years, right? Like this is the game changer for me. And it really resonated for me to learn how to take ownership and the message of everything's your fault. And I actually got to the point where I like to play a game. I like to say if someone messes up, I'll actually say, "Hey man, look, you know what? That's my fault. I should have had your back when you forgot to buy the broccoli at the grocery store. I should have got with you and made sure I took a look at the list and made sure we had all the ingredients in the cart before we actually left the store. So you know what? My bad. I should have had your back." And people are like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, That's how you do it, boys. I mean, that's real shit. It sounds ridiculous, little small, minuscule stuff like that, but that was extreme ownership. But as you can imagine, people started making fun of me for it. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Extreme Ownership," to where they started like playing games with me to see if I would actually take ownership on it. Like they would play pranks on me or put me in a bad situation and be like, "Oh, how are you going to get your way out of this now, Mr. Extreme Ownership, Mr. Jocko?" And it was all good. But then I also I also wore a brand called Lions Not Sheep, right? Because my last name is Lyons, so I really like the brand Lions Not Sheep. So my boy Matt Peterson, he's a dialed in firefighter, but he is an absolute clown. He is one of those guys that just he can make everybody laugh no matter what mood you're in. He's the guy that uplifts the crew, and just there's shenanigans to be had all the time. Well, this jackass made me a shirt that said Sheepo on the front, instead of Jocko and Lion's Not Sheep, he combined it to do Sheepo, and then he put a cat on the front, and on the back it said Kittens Not Sheep, and then it was like the cat's backside with the butthole on the backside, and he was like, "Hey man, I got you a shirt, bro. Like this is you. This is your Sheepo now." I was like, "All right." Well, what I did was I cut off the sleeves and I turned it into my most favorite gym shirt ever, and I rocked that shit. And I took the sleeves and I made a headband out of it, and I like took a barbell and took a bunch of poses with it, and I sent it to him. I'm like, "Thanks, bro. This is my favorite shirt ever, man." I own, just like I was telling, like
Yeah,
you got to own that shit. Like you make fun of me, I'm gonna help you make fun of me because that shows you how much I don't give a shit.
yeah,
That was the beginning of it. Um, Networking with Corley Moore in his Nine L's book, he talks about, one way to influence culture and pride and ownership in your firehouse is to like create a mascot, create like a nickname for your firehouse or something like that. And so I was in Pensacola at the Pensacola Beach Fire Conference, and I'm sitting on the balcony. I'm looking out at the water because Pensacola Beach is absolutely beautiful. And I'm looking out at the water, having a cup of coffee to start off the day, and I can see they were actually dolphins, but I can see like these bodies of water swimming out in the ocean. And of course, everybody thinks initially shark. And then I started thinking, I was like, man, you know what's really cool? What I love is like great white sharks that like burst out of the water and like snag their prey at like 60 miles an hour. Well, I was like, man, that could be a mascot right there. And I was like, a great white shark breaching out of the water. And I was like, I'm gonna create the breacher crew. And I reached out to Jobtown Graphics. Shout out to Jobtown Graphics because they're badass. He drew me a great white shark jumping out of the water and biting down on a Halligan, and it's bent, and it says my department's name, and it says Breacher Crew underneath it, and on the left it says Strength and Honor. And I'm actually looking at it right now. I don't know if I can get it. It's got a I can't get it with the glare, but it's
oh
the stickers
yes,
right there. But I keep it on here just to say like, look, I don't give a shit. Once again, when I made these stickers and I started passing them out to people, and I actually had a battalion chief call me, and he said, "Hey, you're creating division amongst the ranks. You're playing favoritism by giving these stickers to certain individuals, and it's not an approved logo, and it's not accepted in the department. I don't want to see him again." And I'm like, "What? I'm not trying to like make department t-shirts and sell them. I thought it was a cool way to get people to buy in, and like the breacher crew, right? Like we're hard and aggressive, hard hitting sharks, you know what I mean?" And it just didn't catch. And I'm like, "Man, what do I got to do?" And then that was scene number 2. Scene number 3 is with Fit Fire Fortitude. I was making a lot of like workout clips and
yeah,
taking pictures and stuff. Me and me and my crew were doing an outside workout. It was over 100 degrees, and we had our shirts off, but we had our air packs on and our mask, and we're just out there with kettlebells and other doing farmers carries and all kinds of stuff. And afterwards, we got together and we took a picture with our shirts off and our masks on. And I'm like, dude, this is great, like camaraderie, getting after it, you know. And I posted it on social media. Once again, everybody's like, who the fuck do these guys think they are? They think they're better than everybody. They look like douchebags, and I'm like, "Oh, come on! I'm just trying to like bring people together." And once again, I got pulled aside by a battalion chief, and he was like, "Hey, man, um, post whatever content you want, but don't involve any more people from our department." And I'm like, "Okay." Uh, Once again, though, I was like, "Look, I'm on a mission to improve culture, leadership, brotherhood in the fire service, that's a good thing, right? Like I'm having this conversation with myself. I'm like, this is a good thing I'm trying to do. But there are just certain people that either don't get it. There's always going to be people that criticize you no matter what, even if they know it's a good idea. And for me, I was like, I can't stop. I'm not. I can't. You know, I after my first conference and recharging the batteries and seeing how big the fire service is and the brotherhood is, I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm going to focus on. I don't care about the approval of these people over here that may not be on the same mission and path as I'm trying to make a bigger impact than certain other individuals. However, whatever their goal is in the fire service, that's not where I want to be. I want to connect with like-minded individuals. And I was like, I'm going to be relentless. I am going to be relentless on this mission because I truly believe in my heart that I'm doing something honorable. I'm doing something to improve the fire service, whether people are on board with it or not. This is my belief. And so I was like, they're you can keep rejecting me all you want, but I'm gonna be relentless. And I was like, boom, there it is. Like relentless rejects. It doesn't matter if people are trying to block you from being on this path of being into the job. It doesn't matter. You just got to be relentless. And that's why I have that slogan, honor over everything, because that's what my slogan is for myself. As long as I'm doing honorable things with honorable people, nothing else matters.
Yeah, dude. Uh, you found a way, right, to get your passion and to be who you want to be as a firefighter and give that outlet. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And you said, going to conference and connecting. I feel like you had to have probably heard Rhodes' speech about the loyal disobedience, right? Like that's right there. Like, and I feel so many people are in very similar situations like you or I or probably a bunch of people that do what we're kind of doing here.
Yeah.
That loyal disobedience, it all of those things, they connect together. They're the same message, which is what's awesome about it. And I mean, has it been cool? The more people you've talked to, the more you realize like that what you're doing makes sense. I mean, have you been getting some validation in
Oh yeah. I
terms of
mean,
who you've been speaking with?
we already talked about it. The iPhone boys, like those dudes, we're all over the country. Texas, Florida, like Michigan. They're all over. And the bond that we've created is so strong. And I've only met one of them in person. But it doesn't matter because we're like-minded individuals and we support each other and we're constantly talking about family. We do devotionals. We've done 75 hard together. These guys are making me better every day. You know what I mean? And I'd rather connect with those guys than the guy that might be sitting in a recliner next to me. You know what I mean? Like I said, no disrespect to those guys, but I'm on a different path than you. And I'm going to go out and find my tribe and seek like-minded individuals. And thank God for Corley Moore and the Vigilantes because that's kind of
Yeah.
where I started finding those people. And Corley probably hates that I talk about him in every single podcast, but that's just the truth, man. I mean, the iPhone boys are a spin-off of the Vigilantes. We're the guys with the iPhones, we're the Blue Bubble guys in the Vigilante group, right? So I love those guys, and those connections that I've made out even just outside of that group, it lets me know that I'm doing the right thing, and it keeps me going every single day.
Yeah, it's not like there's these giant 40-foot walls up around the people that get it. I think that's what's been really cool to notice, and firemanship, especially, was seeing some of that. Like, it's not some secret club. You can come in, you can join the club. It's not that hard to join the club. You just gotta love the job. It's that simple, and not be fake about it, and be real about what you know and what you don't know.
Absolutely. So I tell people all the time, like the fire service and the firefighters that are into the job, they're just hungry for other passionate people to just to share the love. That's all that it is. Like, and I mentioned guys like Logan and stuff like that. Like they just want to do hood rat shit with their friends too. You know what I mean? Like they may be getting it after it in gear, but if you show up and you're like, hey man, I want to do a workout, and they're like, cool, like let's go, let's get after it. Like Marcos lives 4 minutes from me. And I love that guy. He's so patient with me because I'm dealing with everything. We talked about it a little bit with like the family dynamic with my baby girl and all that stuff. He doesn't have a kid, so he's just a savage every day of the week. But he still manages to stay connected with me, and he's like, whenever you want to get after it, man, just let me know.
Yeah,
Like those are the people that I want in my life.
yeah, Yeah, right. So your process to get to where you're at. I wanted to talk about creating your own opportunities, right? So hearing your story about what you've built, what you're continuing to do. There's a lot of like manifest destiny type shit going on here. And did you have any thoughts or maybe some wisdom on creating your own destiny, essentially doing what you want to do?
Yeah, so I mentioned 75 Hard, and for the people that don't know who Andy Frisella is, he's the creator of 75 Hard. He's the CEO of First Form. He's also an absolute savage, but he's one of those people. He was probably like almost 300 pounds at one point in his life. He was still extremely successful, but he realized that there was a point in his life where he had to change things in his life. He had to take the action. No one else was going to do it for him. And so he created the 75 Hard program for himself. But now it's become like a worldwide, I hate to say trend, but it's like a lifestyle for a lot of people. And he has his podcast, the Real AF podcast, and he's talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. And I say entrepreneur lightly because I'm not making money off this. All this shit, all the lighting and the microphone, I paid out of my own pocket. There's no sponsors or anything like that. But you know, it's something where he encourages people to say, like, if if you're not happy with where you're at, no one's gonna come save you. No one's gonna change things for you. You have to take the action. And to build on top of that, there's a Marine that has deceased. His name's Travis Manion. He has a famous quote: "If not me, then who? If not me, who is going to? If I don't like the culture in my department, or if I think the leadership is lacking, or the accountability could be better, it's got to start with me. I can't go to my chief and say, "Hey, you need to change shit around here." Like he's gonna be like, "Get out of here." Like that's more work for him to do. So if anything, it needs to start with me, and it needs to become contagious. And so that's the mission that I've been on, and that's why I said Fit Fire Fortitude on the back burner, because I'm reading books, I'm going to conferences, I'm recording podcasts and all that. I'm trying to make myself better, and that's my message to everybody is like you said, manifest destiny is that I have to work on myself, and then hopefully I can find like-minded people, build up my tribe, and make an impact through that. I can't expect anybody to change it for me.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I really think like my uh, eventually like there's going to be a group of people that need to be the next presenters, the next educators of the fire service, and anyone can be that if they want to be that, right? It's just about that pursuit of knowledge and excellence in a way, right? And
Yeah, the hard thing though with that for firefighters is that, especially in our current society with instant gratification and the way algorithms are and the fire conferences that really like jazz us up and we want to just like hungry pit bulls get after it. This is a long process. And I've heard it from several people like Anthony Rowett, to quote Marcos again, you can't just come up with a good idea and then try to go out and teach it and make an impact through that. It's the same thing with trying to make change in your department. You have to build yourself up, you have to build that credibility, and you have to actually do it on the fire ground. You have to do it in your own, if like become a cadre member in your own academies and teach and see what works and what doesn't work, instead of just come up with this cool blueprint with these cool pictures and all this stuff and then try to push it out to the world and be like, I am a guru at culture and leadership. And I'm speaking from my own experience. Is at one point on my Instagram, I had culture and leadership coach on there, right? Like it sounds ridiculous right now because once again, I'm a punk kid from LA. I struggle every day with my family life, with my finances and my nutrition and my fitness, all that stuff. But I'm learning along the way, and hopefully someday I'll have enough cookies in the cookie jar to be able to offer someone or some organization or some conference my experience in the journey, because I am on the path. But don't be in a rush to whatever it is, make money, have a brand, like all this stuff. It just slow down.
yeah, yeah, because that's not what it's about, right?
No.
It's a it's about freely sharing information, and at some point, right? Like I guess, like having social media platform or something, yeah, you can maybe recover a little bit of cash to pay for equipment and stuff like that through,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
stickers and
don't.
shit like that, right? Nothing wrong with that. And
Yeah,
I want to
absolutely.
make
You got
sure,
to have a
yeah,
goal. So you got to have a goal. You got to have, so there's a goal, there's your overall goal, which should be fucking big. It should be so big that pe when you tell people it, they're like, that's ridiculous. Who are you to everything? But even if you don't achieve that goal and you fall short of it, look where you've become. Look
yeah,
where you've gone. Look the risks that you've taken to get here at least. And that's what I tell people all the time. My goal is to be a public speaker on a stage like Frank Viscuso, speaking to Fortune 500 companies, not just the fire service. I'd love to be on the stage of firemanship and talking about all these things and these stories and how they resonate with other people and how they can go back to their fire departments and make an impact. But once again, like you gotta take the journey, right? You gotta. But I have those goals. Yeah, I want to be a personal speaker, fucking making thousands of dollars and traveling the country and going to conferences for free, and then having sponsors and if like all this cool shit around me. But and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because we talked about manifest destiny. Like you gotta have some fun with it. This is the passion, which makes it easy for us to have a platform and do this shit for free and pay out of pocket. But by all means, why not have a goal? Because at some point, the passion's going to taper off a little bit. This is going to become a lot of work. You're going to run out of shit to talk about. And so that stuff's what helps keep you going. And there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with it.
No, no, there's definitely nothing wrong with it, right? When it's rooted in uh, the right reasons for doing something, you can't go wrong, right? As long as it's you have, you know, uh, you have a goal of what you want it to be, like you're saying. You have an end
Yeah. Well,
result. You have something, right? It's not just TikTok dances, right? That's the
no,
difference.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And my perfect example of who's doing it right is Chief Scott Thompson.
yeah,
You see him at conferences, you see him talking about culture and leadership. He's written books, but he also has a website where he gives you free shit on mentorship and culture. He's not trying to be a millionaire, but he's just trying to make an impact. But he realizes that getting on the stages and speaking is where he's going to make a larger impact versus going department to department, all that stuff. So, you know, that's just for some of us, it's a dream for us. Some people they don't want to ever be on a stage ever, and but I think that's where the people that have no problem communicating with a camera in their face with a microphone in their hand, like take advantage of that. Don't suppress that gift.
yeah. Well, it's about growth of the whole fire service, right? Like that's what I think. Like a lot of people that get into those spaces, that's what they really care about, right? Yeah, they're aligned to a department that they're a part of, but really, like like you're saying, Scott Thompson sharing his stuff for free. Jeremy Sanders at Crew First Culture, he does the same
Mm,
thing. He's got a
yeah.
mentorship book that he just for free, like because
Yeah.
that's what it's about, right? And it's about bettering everyone. If you've got a resource that's going to make another department better, why wouldn't you share it? And then yeah,
Yeah.
have some swag and some coins, right?
Well,
Nothing
yeah,
wrong with that.
but also here's another thing. We're family men, right?
Yeah,
Anytime we go to a conference and
yeah,
if we have goals of going to speak, we're going to be away from our family.
yep,
That comes at a cost of time and time with our families. And if we're gone, being able to show our wife a little compensation for us being away from home, I'm sure it makes the blow a little bit softer.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I wasn't even planning on getting on that rabbit hole, and I love it. So part of I would imagine being a reject of sorts, right, is about building your own standard, right, and having that, and now expanding that circle of influence. So, was that something that you found you had to create for yourself and kind of grow? How was that process?
So when I got out of the Navy, when you meet a veteran, what do you say generally?
Thank you for your service.
Right. Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Navy and I was telling people that I served for 10 years and people would say that to me, I'm like, I didn't earn that. I didn't. I got all these tattoos and I've spent more money on booze and hitting port. Everything you know about a sailor, right? Cuss like a sailor, drink like a sailor, all those port visits, like chasing women. I did that for 10 years. So That's what I think of in my Navy career. I'm like, man, I squandered my military service. I could have done so much more. And I didn't. I wanted to be liked. I followed the popular crowd. I went and partied because that's what everybody did. And after my 10 years, I'm like, shit. I feel like shit every time someone says thank you for your service to me. Now transitioning into the fire service, people still say thank you for your service, thank you for what you do, and that's members of your community. It's a direct face-to-face contact with people that pay your paychecks. They pay taxes for you. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I know what it feels like to feel like you don't earn the phrase thank you for your service, and I'm not going to have that happen to me again. And I think that was the biggest takeaway of my military service was knowing that I didn't give it my all. I didn't give 110% to my service, to my country, and to the military. And so now, when people are wondering why I'm so passionate and like hardcore and all about this mission of impact and service and honor, it's because when I hang my coat up for the last time and I look back and I'm retired and people start forgetting about me, I can at least say I served in the fire service, my organization, my community to the best of my abilities and gave as much as I absolutely could because I know what it feels like to not give it your all. And I'm not going to do that shit again. That's where my standard comes from.
Well said. Oh my God.
I've been practicing.
Yeah,
I'm good.
really, right? No, no, but seriously, I mean, all kidding aside, earning that, right? It's a great way to keep yourself humble, and keep yourself mission focused. And I love your perspective on that, and it makes a whole lot of sense. So naturally, with this pursuit to be better, this you're rattling some cages and going against the grain, right? Right, and that's part of that's part of the gig. As Jimmy Theobald, who I had on the show a while ago, would say, you bought the ticket, and he talks about that with being a company officer. But it's the same idea, right? Like you bought the ticket, you're going to take the ride. And what were some things, maybe like mistakes that you had made early on in that, but now maybe you've learned from? What's some advice you could give to somebody now who's maybe younger and is just starting to kind of get into that, right? Just starting to realize that being a really, really damn good fireman, you do kind of have to go against the grain of kind of the
Oh, yeah.
norm right now. What would you say to somebody?
Pick your battles. Pick your battles. And I said it before, it starts with yourself. If you're going to go at your organization, you're going to go at your senior firemen, maybe the guys who wrote the SOPs. Maybe there's a safety culture phrase being thrown around. Before you bring out your hatchet and you start attacking everybody, understand, dive deep into, I said it before, your rules and regs and your SOPs. Know that shit so well so that when you go in to argue against some type of policy, you know what the hell you're talking about. And I've done this the wrong way where I went to a conference once again, like VES, searching beyond the door, all the stuff like Brothers in Battle and Cody Trestrell are teaching, all this stuff. It that itself rattles cages, right? Um, you gotta have the credibility for one, and you gotta be. I hate to say it, dude, but you gotta be diplomatic. All this shit you see on Instagram, and dude, and David Rhodes talks about the revolutionaries of the fire service, like being on social media and everything that they're doing. That stuff is great. That stuff is making a huge impact and waves uh, through the fire service. Shout out to Conduct Unbecoming and Black Smoke Sticker Company. Like those dudes are getting after it. But at the same time, you approach your chief with that shit, you're not gonna get any change. You're gonna get booted out the door. And so my thing is, if you're gonna be a student of the game, be a student of the game. And that requires the boring shit of policies and SOPs and have your ducks in a row, have your shit in order so that when you go to present something of like, hey, I'd love to bring in truck tactics, aggressive search culture, accountability in the fire service, something like that, and then you back it up with like our policy currently states this. I feel like wording it, changing it this way, dude, that's next level shit. Okay. I do it myself. Relentless Rejects, we have some shit, some quotes on there that really challenges and bucks the system. But in your own organization, which is where it's going to start, you have to be tactful. Don't just die on a hill shouting to the rooftops that your organization sucks and they need to change it, because all your organization sees is one individual wearing their Maltese cross, their logo, saying that they suck. You gonna win anybody over with that? No. And I made that mistake. And so my goal is to make my way up the chain of command, company officer, hopefully captain, battalion chief. That way I can make an impact from the inside. But if I'm backseat fireman motherfucking everybody, they're gonna remember that in a promotional process. Am I gonna get promoted? Maybe, maybe not. But I can't make a change there. You know what I mean? So I hate to say it, but play the game. Don't
Yeah.
die on a hill. That's my message for going. If you go against the grain, please challenge these people, but do it tactfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to be smart. I mean, you kind of touched on it a few times, and it was something that I came to a realization of not too, actually, kind of recently, to be honest with you, maybe within the last year, was that I'm smart. I'm a smart fireman. Like, I know I'm a smart fireman. I'm a skilled fireman, and then I realized that I wasn't really a smart fireman in terms of my own organization. You're talking about SOPs and SOGs, and so like I know what to do, but like I didn't know what the moves were for our organization in the same way. And then if they didn't make sense, I would find out in the worst times and be like, well, that's fucking dumb. Rather than like already know what they are and then get ahead of that game and be like, this doesn't make sense for this reason. And so it made me have a shift, and it hasn't been anything major. I ended up getting the opportunity to serve on our tactical committee, and we're working on changing a lot of stuff in that regard. But like, the very first thing I did was change the tattoo policy, or I shouldn't say did, that I got involved with. And it was, we had a long-standing policy where you couldn't have anything visible from the sleeve below, unless you got hired and you had the tattoo already, which made zero sense whatsoever, right? And so I read that, and the younger punk asshole version of me goes, that's fucking stupid. Like,
Yep.
why would we even have that? And you sit around the coffee table making fun of it. And then it was like, well, hold on. I'm going to learn how to write a policy. And then I went to, I think it was like a company officer class or something like that. Okay, now I'm going to speak in their language. So now when I put that on a chief's desk, it's 99% done. And he either says yes or no. And yeah, it might sit on that desk for a little while. But if you do all the work for them, at least,
Yep.
I could be wrong. This is just my own experience. But what I've noticed since I've kind of changed the way I approach things, if you do 90%, probably even more, they won't say no. It might take a little bit of time, but like they're not going to want to do the work, right? But if you already did it all they got to do is put a signature on it and they're done.
Look at what those guys. I mean, Sean Duffy, Chief Scott Thompson. I forget who's all on it, but the two in, two out
Yeah.
policy. Brian Brush just posted something about NFPA 1500. You know what I mean? That is next level shit. The bitching we do at the kitchen table without any knowledge of how to change our own policies in our organization, that's rookie shit. Look at these dudes at the top, ruffling fat. Look at Chief Scott Thompson at Colony.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna do a paramedic program. We're gonna do a truck and engine combo in a suburban fire department.
Yeah.
And people are like, why? What do you do? Why? And he's like, and he backs it up with data in his belief. And now he has no recruiting problems whatsoever. People are lining up to go work for that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the shit we need to look at. We need to take a page out of the guys that are doing it at the next level instead of the rookie shit we're doing at the kitchen table.
Dude, you could be the toughest knuckle dragging motherfucker, but if you can't at least get in that arena, you're not going to really be able to change stuff. And listen, hate it or like it, that's the reality, man. Like, a lot of what we have is that white collar area of the department. That's what you could change cultures, but you can't change departments without infiltrating essentially that area of a department and writing shit. You have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're really not going to be able to change anything. If it looks like it was written in crayon and you spelled everything wrong, they're going to be like, get the fuck out of here. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So you've got to figure out how to speak their language. And then when they show it to a village administrator who really doesn't know anything about the fire service, you got to think about their language. And Yeah, dude, you're absolutely, you're spot on. Like it's, I think that's the 700th time I said spot on today. But anyway, um, yeah, yeah, the tact, right?
Yes.
Presenting things the
Yeah.
right way, going through
And
the
I hate to say it
channel.
that way because I'm all about blue collar firefighting.
Me too.
But you can't be a blue collar fireman if the people at the top are creating policies that restrict you from doing blue collar shit.
Yeah,
So once again, if you're an into the job fireman, I hate to say it, but you got to get into those ranks over time. Don't do it at 21.
yeah,
But when you're 45 years old, 50 years old, and you're still getting after it, but you're like got the next generation below you and they're savages,
yeah.
put yourself in a position to protect them from safety culture and shit like that. Otherwise, everyone's going down.
Yeah, you can only punch up for so long. You gotta be in that group at some point to really truly change things,
Hmm.
right? I think Rhodes did a keynote, or sorry, one of his not keynote one of editor's opinions that he had was just about that when he joined. And I'm going to butcher it because it was a couple months ago, but it was basically he joined another committee. And he thought he was the smartest guy in the room. And then he got in a room of smartest guys in the room, and he was like, I don't know anything. It's the same. It's the same idea, right? Like you have to figure out how those people operate and think. And we can bag on Chiefs all day long, but at a certain point, you gotta kind of play in their sandbox if you really
Oh
want to
yeah.
change things.
Oh yeah.
Seldom talked about, by the way, at our level, as a fireman. Seldom talked about. We really don't talk about that much. So, I really appreciate you talking about that. We talked about networking to find your brotherhood, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we can hit on it again because, like, we've you got the iPhone gang, you got all this
Yeah.
other stuff going on, but I'm trying to think of another part of that to ask a question for, and I kind of don't think I can. So unless you have anything else to kind of add on to that,
Yeah, I
uh,
do. I do. So obviously, if they're listening to this podcast, they're listening to other podcasts. When someone puts out their contact information and the shit that they were saying was really inspiring and resonating with you, when they put their information out, use it. Like I did that with Chief Rhodes after he was on the scrap. He put his email out there, and or I think he put his number out, and I immediately texted him right after the after the after party, and I was like, "Hey, Chief, thank you so much for doing that," and he responded back right away. Chief Rhodes, like Smoke Daddy, you know what I mean? Like you'll quickly realize the more you network and you have the courage to go up and talk to these instructors or reach out to people that are on podcasts, they're just like us. They're everyday firemen, whether they have a white cap or a black one or they're probies, whatever. They love this shit, you know. And if they don't love it, they're not listening to the podcast and they're not on podcasts. So don't even worry about getting some negative criticism. You know what I mean? That's how you build your network. That's how you surround yourself with like-minded individuals or people that are doing it at the next level. Just like I said, like Chief Brian Brush, all those guys, like reach out to them. At least, at least reach out to the point where they recognize your name a little bit, and then that way when you go up to them at a conference, they're like, oh yeah, like Rob Fisher. I met this dude uh, in Colorado at the Mile High Fire Conference last year. We had chatted briefly on social media. Facebook is more like in someone else's post. Him and I would have like little mini conversations. And I actually met him at Mile High and I said, hey, Chief, you probably don't know me. My name's Preston. He goes, oh, yeah. Hey, how's your daughter doing? I'm like, no shit. Rob Fisher knows like everything. He sees the post about my daughter. He knows all this stuff. And he's actually met my daughter now in Pensacola. Like he's Uncle Rob to me, Uncle Robbie. You know what I mean? But that all started, and I hate to say it, started from social media, just networking and chatting with guys, and then you'll hopefully meet them out there in a conference or something like that. And that's how networking is mastered. You that and people are afraid to have those conversations, but we're all just a bunch of dumbass firemen, dude. Like we just have a love for the job. That's all. If you just tell yourself that, it's not a big deal.
dude, yeah, I want to echo that because that's how where I'm at, and some of the awesome things that I've been afforded. Like Rob Fisher, I remember I reached out to him a while ago about saws. I needed some insight about roof saws because we were looking to change things, right? Talked to him a whole bunch. Ended up having him on my show, right? I talked to Mike Gagliano about air. We were talking about Rome and our policies. We have to do the thirds now for the bottles, but we run a 30-minute bottle with, and talking through some of the stuff about trying to be compliant without, like we were kind of talking about before, trying to play in the sandbox, but also like, hey, listen, we don't have a lot of air because we run a half-hour bottle. So when we're at a third left, like, we can't be getting out before a bell. Like, we need to be in there. We're so short-staffed. And great conversation. I'm sure you have 1,000 stories probably now, of meeting
Oh
these
yeah.
people and networking. And
Yeah.
yeah, dude, my Connor, my probie, we do on probation. They have to do like a future of the fire service thing, and so they present it, and they have to pick either like a new technology, a new technique, something like that. So he did that on the hen nozzles, and we're at firemanship, and similar thing. He's looking. He goes, "Hey, that's Ray." I was like, "Yeah, it is." I'm like, "Go talk to him." He's like, "About what?" I'm like, "You just did your thing." I happened to talk to him before, and I was talking up Connor, my probie. I'm like, "I already primed you, dude. Just go over there and talk to him." And
Nice.
proud papa, I grabbed a picture of him and Ray talking, and I sent it to him afterwards. And I was like, "You're gonna remember that shit when you're like fucking 40." Like, remember when I talked to that guy from
Yeah.
FDNY who's this massive, person in the fire service, and it was just a one-on-one conversation of just two firemen talking about the job.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Here's the ultimate hack, and here's what I've been doing, and I hate that I'm going to share this, but once again, I'm gonna shout out Corley in the scrap. And the way he does the vigilantes in the after party. First off, become a vigilante. But here's the ultimate hack to network. Now that Corley's on YouTube, and you can ask live questions on the show, ask a question worth asking, and he will say your name on the podcast and your question. And do that every live you can potentially get on. Like, people probably know who Preston is because of how many times I ask questions on the scrap. My YouTube handle is Relentless Rejects, and Corley goes, Preston Lyons asks, da 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 da.
Yeah, yeah,
And everybody's like, a fucking Preston. You know what I mean? For one, that's ultimate way of networking. So people know your name before you even know them. And then second, get in the after party. It's like a dozen dudes just shooting the shit with
yeah,
the guy that was just on the scrap. And he's like high on life, just got done with the scrap, and now he gets to relax a little bit. He's relaxing with the vigilantes. That's your ultimate hack of networking. Vigilantes, ask live questions, or shit on the outliers. Like, ask. I wish somebody would just ask me a question.
I
I'd be
know,
like,
right?
"What's up, bro?" Like, that's how you get your name out there. Because when people go back and listen to the podcast, they hear your name over and over and over again. They're like, "I've never met that dude, but he sounds like a dialed-in firefighter.
Yeah,
Let me Facebook him. Oh, let me search him on Instagram. Oh, he's gonna be at firemanship. He's gonna be at COBC. I'm going to COBC. Let me shoot him a message. Hey, bro, heard you going to COBC. Hope to see you there. Next thing you know, we're having a beer on the beach. That's, man, I'm telling you, that's the ultimate like thing you need to do at conferences too. Like, the networking is top notch. That's what it's all about.
yeah, yeah.
I hate
It's
to say it. My wife, just to add on to it, like,
yeah,
I bring my wife sometimes to conferences, and she knows all good and well that I go to conferences to meet other dudes. She knows, like, we'll be drinking a beer, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go talk to that guy. And she's like, fine, I'll be here. Just, you're going to chase other dudes at a conference. But I just love the networking so much, man.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. It's like fireman therapy in a way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's yeah. So both of us, total segue, but we did talk kind of about your wife and so family, and both of us have gone through some things with our children, and your daughter is recovered and doing well, right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome, and my son's on his way towards recovery and doing
Mm.
really well, and you know, I, as I've had this happen to me and my family, I realize that so many firemen go through some sort of event with their children. And I don't know, it's just pure coincidence, it seems like sometimes. But if you ask some of these people, everybody's got some story of some adversity they went through with their kids. And I feel like I was not aware of it until it happened to me. And then all of a sudden the doors start opening and everybody just starts giving you their support of all these things that they lived through. And because of that, I truly feel like I learned the strength of being a fireman is actually really coming from my family, and it's not necessarily from me. And do you feel like since you've become a father, that that's given you another level as a fireman that you didn't know you had before?
Uh, yes, but that process was not a good one.
Okay.
So for the people that don't know, my daughter was born at 32 weeks. My wife had an emergency C-section. I almost lost both girls in the OR. My wife's blood pressure was tanking. They couldn't get an IV on her because her kidneys were failing. And then my baby was breathing and then not breathing. She was born at 2.5 pounds. She immediately got rushed off to the NICU. That was a 2 month journey in the NICU. They, had to strengthen her lungs. She had a G tube in place the entire 2 months. She was in an incubator. I spent 12 hours a day in the NICU for 2 months straight. As you can imagine, nothing else existed outside of that NICU. My daughter, during those days, I referred to her as the hammer of Thor. She was 2.5 pounds, but they encouraged us to do skin to skin contact. So I would sit on the recliner and I would put her on my chest, and I swear to God, I couldn't move. It was the most powerful thing in the world. Like the emotions, like the endorphins, the euphoria that you experience having your daughter who's still alive laying on your chest is I even though it was tragic, it was a scary situation. I would never take that experience back because now my bond with my daughter is even stronger than had she just been happy, healthy baby on day one. And my wife also is very trauma bonded to my daughter. But when I went back to work, this didn't happen to me before my daughter was born, but I would do stair climbs. I would get in my gear and put my mask on and go straight into a fucking panic attack. Um, I wouldn't make it to floor 4 on the stairs, and I have done the Denver stair climb multiple times. I've done Red Rocks multiple times. Uh, I couldn't breathe. I don't know why. Like my chest was tight, my pack felt like 1,000 pounds, and what I equated it to was like the stress of going through all that and trying to be strong for my family and my wife. I was suppressing everything in here, and it was coming out whenever I would exert myself, like physically. But with the mask, man, I started having claustrophobia. I wanted to rip my mask off. I was having to do breathing exercises and all this crazy shit. And it took a long, long time to get out of that. And also, what I equate to that is that it's not just about me anymore. The fire service, like the cool shit we get to do and like hanging out with the boys and responding to calls and children waving at us, that stuff immediately became secondary to me just getting home to my family. And I hate to say it that way, but they took the utmost priority in my life. But I was able to flip that. I was able to flip that switch of like, how can I safely get home to my family after every set? That means be the best fucking firefighter I can be. So that way, when I go into the depths of a structure, into the IDLH, blacked out, searching, fighting the fire, I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail my family. I'm not going to fail the citizens. I'm going to be as successful as I can be. We can't win them all, but I'm going to get back home to my family. And that was the number one priority. And now that is my motivation every single day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a journey. It's definitely not a light switch. Having kids, and becoming the next version of you, not only as a father, but as a fireman father. It's something that it's tough to explain, right? Other than telling the stories of moments like that, right? Like, have you had, and you can stop me if you don't want me to, but have you had a even semi-serious pediatric call since you've been back to work?
Oh man,
And
I
you
was
don't have to get that
no,
deep
no,
with
no.
it.
This
That's
is good.
fine.
This is a good story.
Okay.
So we get a call to a newborn baby breathing problem, and we get in the notes, preemie baby, mom doesn't know what to do, baby's not breathing right, and changing color. Who's the best person to enter the scene in that situation? I walk straight in there and I see this tiny preemie baby look just like my daughter, and she was unswaddled. She was naked. And so if anybody knows anything about preemie babies, they don't have enough body fat to keep themselves warm. So they're burning very important calories to stay warm. And then they also, their breathing becomes irregular because of all the like the body temperature. They're hungry. They're not sleeping properly. So I immediately went in, picked up this baby and swaddled it, and we checked the vital signs and all that stuff. But I was like, ma'am, your baby's either crying because it's cold, tired, or hungry. So we wrapped her, we swaddled her, and we gave her a bottle. And the next thing you know, I'm coaching the mom, and I showed her pictures of my daughter, and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, look, this was my daughter in the NICU. My wife just sent me this picture today. Look at her now, and she broke out into tears because she thought she was this victim of like I have this tiny imperfect baby. And I'm like, no, your baby is absolutely beautiful. She's okay. This is what I've learned. These are the signs, and we fixed all those problems. And we ended up taking just to be safe, taking her to the hospital. But the the weight that was lifted off of that mother in that moment,
Yeah.
because I was the one that was there, was, man, God put me there.
Yeah. Right.
God put me there for that situation. Conversely, um, before my daughter was born, my wife was had just recently been pregnant. I ran on a stillborn. That feeling I never want to feel again, where the mom is saying, "What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it?" And you're looking at this baby that you know is not viable, and the air gets sucked out of that room, and it's like no one knows what to say in that moment. That jacked me up for a long time. But I truly believe that God put that scenario on my heart because once my baby was born, and even though she was tiny and she was struggling, she was alive. And going from a stillborn call to my baby just being alive made everything okay for me. I can handle that. My wife saw it a little bit differently, but I was able to reassure her
Yeah.
and go through that journey. And so it's all the things about fatherhood that I can't explain other than just explaining those stories. Like, why did those happen to me? A stillborn into my baby being a NICU baby to shortly responding to a preemie baby where the mother didn't know what to do. I was put in all those scenarios for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like get too deep into religion and faith because I'm not a very good Christian. But man, there's no other explanation for that stuff.
Dude, sometimes the signs, man, it's yeah. I know. I feel you. I feel like at least as a medic, like we don't. I mean, we don't get as many interactions as on the fire world. Obviously, you're gonna see more kids on the ambulance. Kids you see in the fire world are usually like, come ring the bell, gives you some stickers, right? Like
Yeah.
hopefully you get an opportunity. Like if some shit's going down, like obviously we're gonna pony up and go all in. But like on the medic world, I find myself being a exponentially better paramedic now with kid calls. Like
Oh yeah.
we're like I, I, I don't really like we get our CE or whatever every month, so we're getting our training in that way.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm not. I mean, we're going on enough stuff. You're paying attention to the protocol. It's not like I'm going out and doing extra medic training, but like I don't know what it is. We go on those calls now, and like my brain instantly clicks to like something I remembered 3 years ago about some random pediatric call, and like there's a weird
Yeah.
calmness to it. And maybe one day there won't be, but I feel like since I became a dad, like those calls, like that the guys that don't have kids or the guys who have older kids know to like pick on the guys with young kids
Oh yeah.
for those calls because we're the best ones for it. I remember arguing with a couple guys. Me and another guy that I was working with both had our kids around the same time, and we were on a call where a woman, it was like her fourth, fifth pregnancy, and she gave birth into the toilet. And we get the baby's totally fine, right? But they're
Oh.
cold and all that other shit, right? So like, what do? Well, you wrap them up, you keep them warm. Like, we had just seen both of our kids born. We both know what they're like when they come out. They're under a freaking like heat lamp, for God's sakes. Like us hanging out in the back of the ambulance. Well, we're supposed to put them in like some weird like car seat thing, and both
Mm.
me and the other guy were like, no. Like, but that's the protocol. I go, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
No.
fucking care. And we both looked at each other like, yeah, no one's prying this baby out of our hands. Like, we wrapped him up in blankets and we sat on the cot and we broke all the fucking rules because we were like, no, we're not fucking doing that. That's not what's good
Yeah.
for this kid. And like, had I not had experiences of a father, like, I probably would have rolled with, not that it probably would have like killed the baby or anything like that, but it's just those things, like, as you become a father, like, the job looks different. It
Hmm.
just looks so much more different. I feel like you have a more of a sense of purpose, and I'm picking up on that a little bit. With what you're talking about too is you're just drive to do anything. Now, to be the best damn fireman you can be is so you can go home. Promote. It's so you can provide a better life for your family. Become a chief so you can influence the department so other guys can go home to their families. It's all that level that you, like, when you're young and you're just going fires and you're just smashing up walls and all the fun shit, cutting up roofs. You're not thinking about all that stuff. Not that you should be, but it's just cool to see firefighters shift into those different levels. And motherhood too. It's not exclusive to us,
Right. Yeah.
obviously, but
You know what I was thinking about when you were talking about that, how you said in those calls, the fathers are the best generally in the kid calls, right?
no.
Take take the fire service as a whole, like the fire side, and now plug in the into the job fireman when it comes to fireground calls and the things we know we're supposed to be doing and the things that we've gone out and experienced intentionally so that when we're in those situations, we are the ones that need to step up and into that situation versus the firefighters that are here for the benefits and the schedule and the pay. Colorado firefighters get paid better than most, but that's because the cost of living is through the roof. But there's the difference between the Benny firefighters and the end of the job firemen. When the tone drops and then you can see that column of smoke, this guy over here that's into the job, he's like, oh, I know what to do. Well, this guy over here is like, oh shit, where's my mask? I don't even know where my mask is. Like, it's a totally different thing, man. And it's that's the best way I can explain it with this conversation of like fatherhood, kid calls, into the job fireman, give me the fucking fire, give me the nozzle.
Dude,
Let's
awesome
go.
parallel. You're dead
Oh
on with
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. And like, and even the people, like the firemen that might talk shit about that guy that's into the job or whatever. That the fireground equalizes everything at that point. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden people are starting to come up behind you and go, "Hey, what do we do?"
Yep.
And you're like, "Come on. Let's go together. We got it. I know." It's like, are you a big movie guy at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy? And
Yeah.
you know how he's trying to tell everyone he's Star Lord, and nobody gets it. And then finally, at the end, they're like Star Lord, and he goes, "Finally!" Like that feeling when you're on a fireground or
Yep.
training, and that guy that doesn't want anything to do with you comes up and goes, "Hey, I didn't know you could do a baseball swing to open a door. You want to show me that?" And you're like, "Finally, all right,
Yes.
come on,
Yes. Come with me.
please,
Come to the dark side.
you'll enjoy this."
Oh yeah.
Wait a
I love
minute.
it, man.
Two and two out means that we're supposed to have two people outside? I just thought that meant, like, that was another
Mhm.
conversation. Like, no, no, no. Let me educate you on that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Shit, man. All right. So we're at that point where I know there's people in this chat, and I know you guys have questions for Preston. All right. So start thinking about them. I'm going to roll into some of the closing things. But that does not mean we're done, right? Because it takes some time to get through these questions. So you have time. Throw a question in there if you got anything or a topic or, an axe to grind and that you want us to wrap on or you want to hear Preston talk more about. Please put it in there. I'm begging you. All right. Fine. You want to hear begging? I'm begging. So, um, what's the best training or class that you've ever participated in?
I gotta go with the Pensacola Beach Fire Conference, which used to be H-Rock.
Yeah.
That was my very first conference, and I met guys like Mike Champo, Ray McCormick, and Scott Thompson, and then the Fire Rescue Survey guys were there. I didn't know anybody at that time. Oh, Kyle Romagus. Kyle Romagus going through his lecture and then his hands-on and teaching the Camella grip and flow and move, that has changed that has changed the game for me to where I am like teaching it to people on my crew and they're like, how do you get your hips to do that? How are you flowing and how are you not? And I'm like, Smoothbore Cartel, baby. Like all from that one conference where I learned that, and I just took it back home and I started perfecting it. Um, yeah, H Rock, Pensacola Beach Fire, but every like Water on the Fire, Pensacola Beach, everything Chief Ike's doing is absolutely phenomenal. But I will also say this as a caveat: another phenomenal training I went to was the engine and truck company ops that Mickey Farrell and Anthony Roette taught. They came out to Boulder this year, and those dudes got a ton of experience. And they had like a 4 hour presentation on, man, I can't even explain it. But those dudes are so articulate in the way they explain things. I took like probably 15 pages worth of notes, and I've been able to go back and also implement it in my philosophy, the way I teach, and things like that because of those two dudes. They've been a great impact on me. And once again, like I met them for 5 minutes in Boulder, but I haven't had full on conversations. But I hope to build on that.
Yeah.
But those two dudes, those guys have a wealth of knowledge. Top floor tactics with Mickey Farrell. He's doing awesome shit.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Uh, well, begged and received. So,
Oh,
Van Ham's here. He's
what's up, my
asking.
man? Great.
Um, so some advice on being a new senior man, and maybe you're not ready for it, and it's kind of just presented itself to you. What's some advice you have?
Yeah. So the senior man obviously is gotten a lot younger in the fire service. I mean, maybe FDNY is a special group where they're like 25-year senior men, but I think there's a generational gap. There's a big age difference between the senior man and the rookies that are coming online. There's like 5 year senior guys, and I hit my senior man label at 7 years. Um, once you embrace it, just embrace the idea of you being a senior man. And I know Greg's this way, but it's gonna make you think in your head like, am I worthy of that title? And whether you like it or not, you are because you've been on the job longer than the rookie, and hopefully you've become a student of the game. And if you haven't been, that's okay. Start today. Start today. Like listen to the podcast, get in the books, network, go to outside trainings, pay out of pocket if you have to. Go to one, and go to Pensacola Beach. Go to firemanship. If you're gonna go to anyone, go to firemanship, and that's gonna be the start of you gaining credibility. When you realize, when you just accept the fact that I'm the senior man, I am now responsible for the career path of the new people coming on, and not only their development, but once again, we talked about it. You're responsible for them getting home to their families. You, the company officer as well, but you are that middleman where you need to be the mentor. The company officer can't go around holding everybody's hand. They need to be looking up and out. They got to talk to the battalion chiefs and the community and fucking all the paperwork. The senior man, you're the guy that says, "Hey, Rook, like, don't do this shit. I want to see you doing that. Be first here. Do this, and that, and be a good mentor. Take them under your wing. You have something to offer, and just accept the fact that you're the senior man. That's the best thing I can tell you."
I like it. Yeah, dude. Especially you touched on something that again doesn't really get that talked about. Is that the senior man? A lot of people will say that the senior man's dead. I just think it looks different now because of how we've grown in that way, where departments had this rapid growth and rapid retirement. Now, yeah, I'm 7 years at my current department, and yeah, I'm in a senior man position. Like, I have like I said, a probie assigned to me, like, and I'm his mentor. And yeah, you just got to
Yeah.
lean in and own it. You're totally right. And it keeps, like you said, it keeps you humble. You don't want to look like an idiot teaching the new guy about ladders and you don't remember what the dogs are, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it
Well,
forces you.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Be be humble, be vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you're the senior man, go up to the new guy and be like, "Hey, look, man, I don't have a lot of jobs under my belt. I've been here, I've seen a thing or two, but you can probably learn a lot more from other people, but you're on my crew. I'm going to teach you what I know, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn shit together. I'm not good at throwing ladders. Let's just go out there and fuck around and throw some ladders. We're going to get better together." Like I have this one hose management technique. What's yours? What'd you learn in academy? What was your go-to? Oh, you don't have one? Okay, well, let's YouTube some shit and let's try something out, see what works for us. Once again, smoothbore cartel. Let me fucking email Kyle Ramagus and see if he's got something to send me. Oh, now I now have the bro list. Now I have like a whole fire service network at my fingertips because I was trying to figure out something for the rookie, and now I've made a connection over here. Like, just embrace it, man. Just learn with them. Don't go in there with an ego like, I'm the senior man, you do what I say. No. If you're not a dude with a wealth of experience and knowledge, fucking own that shit. Say, hey man, like, we're gonna do this shit together. Be vulnerable. Maybe you can teach me a thing or two. Do you understand what that's gonna do for the rookie? They're coming into your house and they have all this pressure of being perfect. And then when you say, I'm not perfect, they're gonna be like, oh, thank God. I'm over here like trying to like fucking wipe your ass because I have to worship the ground you walk on. But then you come at me and you're like, I'm not perfect. Let's learn together. Now I could be myself. I can open up. I can have fun. I'm not afraid to fail in front of you. Dude, that's where it's at, man.
Yeah.
That's where a senior man makes his money.
Yeah, Greg agrees. He's saying, he had an awesome answer. And he says he's got 3 years on. Oh, shit's moving. See, I'm not that quick. Unless he deleted it. Where'd that go? I don't know. He said something about having 3 years on. Greg, I don't know what happened to your answer, but it disappeared. Uh, Joe's asking, what's one thing you would tell your rookie self? Uh, and what is one thing you would tell your future self? That's a cool question. I like that.
One thing I would tell my rookie self is that the learning doesn't end when you're off probation. I made that mistake was we have a thing, and I think it's very common that you can't like sit in the recliner until you're off probation. There's certain restrictions, right? You can't watch TV for us. Can't, when you get off probation, you're a made man. You can now sit in the recliner, coke and joke with everybody. You don't have to get up early to wash the rigs anymore, all this stuff. For me, that was the thing where I was like, I can kick my feet up. I'm done. Now all I got to do is obey the calls and the master calendar and the quarterly training. That's it. I don't have to do anything else. If I was able to tell rookie self, like, the training, the knowledge never ends. You will never learn everything about the fire department. It took me wanting to quit the fire service to go to my first conference. I would tell rookie self, put in for an outside training. It could be like for us in Colorado, we have the Mile High Fire Conference. It's a pretty fucking awesome conference. Just go. Our department gets free seats. Like, just go. Who cares what they say? For my future self, don't forget where you came from. You're still a punk kid from LA. I don't give a fuck if Relentless Rejects has sponsors up the ass and I'm driving a Lamborghini and I'm getting paid 15 grand to speak to fucking Apple. It does not matter. You're a punk ass kid from LA. No, you're not better than anybody. And also, bring people up with you. Because you can be the fucking guy at the top of the pyramid, but when it's all said and done, if you didn't bring anybody up with you, you're more easily forgotten because you didn't pass down your knowledge to where my boys Greg and Joe, iPhone boys, if I don't pass my knowledge down to them, they're not going to learn. And guess what? They don't develop, and the knowledge that I have dies with me. Versus, I teach them, and I pour myself into them, and they go, I learned everything I know from Preston Lyons. And they teach the generation below them, and they say, I know everything I know from Preston Lyons. And that generation who's probably never met me goes, Greg and Joe taught me this, but they said they learned this from a guy named Preston Lyons. That's more important to me than fucking all the money in the world.
Yeah.
That's my message.
Joe's also saying now your name's out, or now his name's out there. So he stole your advice, asking a question. That's funny.
See? Yeah, dude. I'm telling
right?
you.
He's already doing it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Greg's got one more for you too, and it's what's the best advice you received from your mentor or mentors?
Yeah, so I had a captain in one of my stations in my department, and I was the guy during COVID, during the Trump administration, fucking dying on hills, burning bridges, arguing. I was doing research on. I was a junior fucking Dr. Fauci, and I was like, you could put me in the White House cabinet. I was doing all this, trying to just win arguments by immersing myself in shit that didn't have to do with the fire service. Right. And we would argue all day. And granted, that's more toxic conversation. That shit, you can, if you want to have those conversations, good. But then the captain goes, uh, you can tell me what Trump's policies are, but you can't, can you tell me what the diameter is on the high rise pack smoothbore nozzle outside right now? And I'm like, no. He goes, how about how many feet of hose are on the engine? No. Okay. Why don't you focus on that shit before you come over here and start arguing sports, politics, and fucking whether I should be wearing a mask or not? And I'm like, truth, truth. And that still resonates today. Like all those things aren't even relevant today. Maybe, I mean, whatever with the election and all that stuff, but like all the stuff that I mentioned about the fire service, all the things that are on my rig and how we respond and the stuff that's going to save my life or someone else's life, I need to know that shit first. I need to be an expert in this. This stuff directly impacts me. This stuff over here, it doesn't directly impact me. And so that was what I learned during all that chaos was fucking focus on what you can control, man. Focus on the stuff you actually put your hands on. All that other stuff you dig into it. You can have those conversations. Have some emotional intelligence when you do it, which I didn't. Once again, I burnt so many bridges that I had to switch shifts. That's how fucking stupid I was. Don't be like me. Be a master of your craft, or at least start becoming one. It's hard to be a master, but at least know the shit on your own rig.
Yeah, 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 dude. It's like the guy that washes his own truck in the bay when the rig's still dirty and he never washed it for the day. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, what do you? Yeah. Let's take care of our business first.
It's a harsh truth. That's a societal thing. That's not just the fire service. I mean, those stupid ass conversations are happening all over the country, and you can argue that they do make an impact on your life. They do. I absolutely agree with that. But can you change anything in that moment? Is it worth having these knockout, drag out conversations at the kitchen table where in 2 minutes later, you might need that person to drag you out of a fucking basement that's on fire? And you're going to argue with him on who he voted for? That's, that's once again, that's rookie shit, man. Talk about the shit that matters.
Yeah, conversation's got to have purpose, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately. Well, I guess we kind of were just on this, but either way, what's one mistake that you've made and learned from?
Yeah. I mean, the best way I can sum it up is the mistake that I made, and I've already given a bunch of examples of it, but the thing that sums it up the most is I was trying to change others before changing myself. And that goes with the credibility piece, right? I was telling other people that they sit in the recliner too much. I was telling other people that are too fat for the job. And if you're too fat, you need to get out. Or you're retired on duty, you need to get the fuck out of here. But once again, I didn't know the diameter of the nozzle on my rig. I didn't know how many hoses were on the rig. I didn't have good search tactics. I didn't know my SOPs. I didn't. So it starts with me. It starts with you. Everybody. It starts with you because people are going to find holes in your game. And you start attacking others, they're going to fucking find something to attack you at, and you're not going to like it. So work on yourself, build up the credibility, and first off, don't attack. Don't attack. Lead by example. Let those critics say what they want, but at the end of the day, like they're probably going to come up to you when no one else is looking and be like, "Hey man, where'd you learn that? What article did you read for that? Like I saw you listen to a podcast. What podcast was that?" Like that's where the battles are won. Don't try to change everybody. Change yourself and be someone worth following. Those people may want to live a better life, become better firefighters because they see how you carry yourself. Once again, honor over everything. Be honorable. That's it. That's my message. That's don't fucking do what I did.
I just love that the bow on top of that. I'll tell you, I'm in the same boat, man. I made my share of fuck ups and mistakes. That's why I asked the question. So
Yeah.
I think when we're honest about that shit, it just makes us all so much better. Like you said about the senior man, the junior senior man, if you will. Own what you don't fucking know. Own what you fucked up. right?
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to put a disclaimer that we swore too much on this, but that's fine. Everything's.
Dude, I'm a sailor, man. I'm telling
I
you.
don't
Like,
even.
can't get
I'm
it out.
small enough. Spotify doesn't care. Anyway, so you actually did kind of mention this a little bit. You were thinking about leaving the fire service, and the question that I have here is, have you ever lost your passion for the fire service? If you have, which I mean, sounds like maybe you have. What'd you do to get it back, and then what do you do to maintain it?
So during those days of wanting to quit the fire service, I didn't have passion. I was that typical firefighter, and I said I transitioned from the Navy to the fire service because it made sense. I liked the schedule, I liked the pay, I liked the fact that I wasn't in a cubicle, and I liked it and I had to fucking serve food to somebody. I was living a good life. To bring up COVID again, we do our own transports. So I was on the box and I'm getting in Tyvek suits and goggles and gloves and rubber boots and my fingernails are bleeding and all this and call volume went up 300%. I'm talking to 26-year-old dudes that are like, I have a scratchy throat. What do I do? I'm like, take some Tylenol and stay home, man. What do you want why are you calling me? It got to that point where I was like, this is dumb. This isn't the fire service I signed up for. Maybe I can go be an emergency manager. Maybe I can respond to hurricanes and floods and tornadoes. That stuff sounds cool. I can still serve, but on a national level, maybe a bigger scale. Maybe this is me scaling up. Maybe the fire service was just my stepping stone into something bigger. And I was actually going to go with a group called Team Rubicon, disaster response organization. I was going to go to Florida to deal with a hurricane that hit Fort Myers out there by Tampa. And my wave actually got canceled. They were like, "Hey, we don't need any more boots on the ground in here. We got everything sewn up. Everything's buttoned up. We're good." But I had already requested vacation time. I had time off. I had my bags packed. And that's when I did a Google search. I'm like, well, maybe there's some conferences out there. I've never even been to a conference, but something told me look for a conference because my department will pay for outside training depending on how often you do it, right? They have a small budget. And I said, hey, can you send me to this conference in Pensacola? Because I already have time off. You don't have to backfill or anything like that. You just have to pay for my registration and my travel. And they were like, cool, we'll send you. Changed my trajectory of my career. It's just meeting Chief Ike for the first time. And the way he just commands a room out there and his unapologetic passion for the fire service. I was like, that is what I needed to hear. That is what I needed to see, to know that it is okay to give a shit about this job and all the things of, for them and our oath and all that stuff. Like that is where it actually resonated with me. When I graduated from Fire Academy and I took the oath, that was just a step in the process of me getting online. I didn't fucking pay attention to what the words were on the oath. But then I actually heard guys speaking truth and speaking life to that oath. And I'm like, bro, that oath means something. It means more than just getting a badge pinned on my shirt so I can go collect a paycheck. And ever since then, never turning back. Never turning back ever.
Awesome. Shout out here from Rob Ramirez, by the way. He was watching.
Oh,
So
dude.
he says we're two solid dudes, which is pretty awesome, obviously. And thanks, Rob. We'll be in touch. I was trying to get some. We talked about policies and shit. I was trying to get some stuff from him to try to build some better Mayday stuff that we have. So
Bro, this is the best compliment I can give Rob. He's a fucking nerd. He's such an that's the thing though. He's the guy that you're like, "Hey man, I have this question on, RIT or fucking cutters or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, I just had this note in my iPhone. It's just a bunch of shit." And you're like, "Damn, Rob, I was just hoping for like a 2 sentence statement, but like you had this shit just sitting in your phone?" Because you were thinking of it one day and you went and got all the data and the facts and like there's dates and shit on here. I'm like, bro, and that's the best compliment I can give you, Rob. You're a
yeah,
fucking nerd and I love that shit. Like it's inspiring.
yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, and Rob, you really got to do it. I know every time I get a chance, I tell you got to come to IFSI for that RIT class, but you better do it. You should look into that shit too, dude. It's the best class I've ever taken in my life.
For
So,
sure.
yeah. So, if you wanted to give someone a sense of how fire service culture should work by meeting one person, live or dead, doesn't matter, who would it be?
Chief Scott Thompson, hands down. I mean, I actually snuck out of a class at Pensacola Beach to go sit in on his class. just because his track was part of the like officer development course, and I was in the HROC course, but I snuck out to go listen to him speak because just the title of his class was like the functional fire company influencing culture and leadership in your fire. I'm like, that, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And he was the guy that was like, if you're an into job fireman, um, go follow the weekly scrap. That was the first time I heard of the weekly scrap. He mentioned the firefighter rescue survey and all that, and he talked about neglected culture in your organization, which I was definitely experiencing. And he he also references like being a cowboy in the fire service, and he's speaking like glory to that title, not like being a reckless, dumb, boneheaded firefighter. He's talking about like the how like the cowboys, how they're actually supposed to be recognized and how it's an honor to be called a cowboy in the fire service. Like he is doing so much to influence the culture and mentor every single person that he comes across to make you believe that the fire service and the brotherhood is well and alive. And so if you get a chance to meet that guy, like do it now because I don't know how long he's going to be doing this shit. I don't know how long he's going to be a chief. So
Yeah,
take advantage.
dude, super personal and will give you literally anything. Like, if you ask for it, I've pulled things from his training, the way that they do training with the seasons. Like, obviously the book is fantastic, but and yeah, just awesome dude to talk to in general. You're spot on again. Keep saying spot on. What the hell's the matter with me? Either way, yeah, Scott Thompson's fucking awesome. So, all right, well, fuck, we gotta end this. Uh,
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna hear it from my wife too. She's gonna be like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna take that long. And I'm like, hey, sometimes when you're on a roll,
hey,
you
sometimes you
just let
yeah.
it out.
Um, well, shit. What's the best part of the job?
Finding like-minded individuals. I mean, I you guys heard me talk about it all day long. Networking, finding these people that you can resonate with because there was a time in my career when I had not got outside the walls of my organization. And once again, I was burning bridges, butting heads with people, being rejected. And I was like, man, fuck the fire service, man. Like, I hate this. Like, these are not my people, right? I felt that for a second. But then going to a conference, messaging guys like Rob, having the iPhone boys, being a vigilante, I'm at an all-time high in the fire service. And I'm looking forward to the direction of the fire service based on all these conferences and Cody and firemanship, like spreading the poison. Come on, like this is the best time to be a firefighter if you find these like-minded individuals and you connect and you take the time to be a part of what these people are giving. Drink the Kool-Aid. I don't give a shit. I'll do it. Like just that's the best part of the fire service for me.
I told Cody I had like one little interaction with him at firemanship, and I was like, I realized over the course of my career that I'd been drinking red water, and this is the first time I realized it was fucking Kool Aid. Like all the speakers that got up there, like you said, you network with enough of these people, but like just to hear some of the things they say and the experiences they went through, I was like, fuck, man, I like this has been there the whole time. I just didn't know what it was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I always loved the job and was into it. It just the level of what it is and like the acceptance now of what that can be if you're in the right groups. Like,
Hmm.
dude, yeah, the
Yeah.
connections are awesome.
Yeah. I got guys in my department that when they go to a conference, they just do the hands-on and that's it.
Yeah,
And they're
that's
like,
not
"Oh,
enough.
I just want to learn the firefighter shit. I don't care about the lecture series and all that." I'm like, "You're missing the best part of it." You know what I mean? Like the instructors are the ones that explain the why and the tactics and the mindset to explain why you're fucking crawling on your belly in a house.
Yeah,
Just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you know why you're doing it
yeah,
or who you're doing it for. Like, fuck, man. Go, just embrace the folk.
yeah,
I can't say it enough, man.
dude.
You got to
Yeah,
talk to these people.
when you understand it, the decisions make themselves. I think that's
Yeah.
really what it becomes. Like the more shit you learn, you don't even have to make a decision anymore. It's that what is that recognition prime decision making? Like if you just build that up in your brain, and that is from lecture, that is from that kind of stuff. Obviously, hands
Well,
on's fucking
and
awesome in the
and
training of it, but like you got
well,
to
in a more
build
realistic
something.
sense, in a more real sense of it, think about this. Like, understanding the why and being able to read smoke, building construction, getting all these lectures from these people that are explaining it like Rob, like with all the facts and the data, having that information up here is going to make I'm not saying maybe, going to make the difference on whether you go in or whether you hit it hard from the yard or call it defensive fire. Like I know that that window is searchable. I know that conducting a search in 4 minutes or less gives that person the most viable, survivable chance if we can get them in less than 4 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having that knowledge is going to decide for me whether I'm going or I'm not going. And that's gonna change lives.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks again for coming on and the chat. This has been awesome. And I only regret is that I don't have more questions. But if someone wanted to get a hold of you, how could they do that? And again, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh yeah. I mean, the easiest way is the Relentless Rejects. Relentless Rejects. See, I can't even say it. The Relentless Rejects on Instagram. Or just, dude, shoot me a text. Shoot me a text first before you call me. 303-330-2306. And the reason why I say shoot me a text is because I'm never just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. And then when it does ring, if I don't recognize it, I'm not gonna fucking answer it. So just shoot me a text and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast, blah blah blah, and fucking we'll be best friends.
There you go. That's going to make 41. So thanks again. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Hang out for a minute.
Got you.